We have to launch. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. Go Artemis.
Oh, of course, go Artemis. And with that, let's turn it back over to the countdown with NASA's Megan Cruz.
Nikki is so fun. She has so much energy and so much passion about the science. And again, yeah, it's just so important to remember that so much science is happening with this mission. It's not just to test out the hardware and the life support systems.
Yeah, you saw the science video, and then we talked to Nikki. Man, there's so much going on, right? We talked a little bit about the lunar observations that we're going to do. And then, she talked about, made a really great point about, the human eye can pick things out that, that a camera or a robot can't necessarily pick out. And so that's why we're sending humans. But also, we're not just doing the lunar observations. The Avatar, that's a really cool experiment. They took blood samples from the crew, and then they used those stem cells to make bone marrow and create those little Avatar chips, which is
so impressive.
Feels like scientific, sci-fi movie stuff. But, we're going to look at radiation. We're going to look at all sorts of different scientific experiments. We got the little CubeSats. We're going to go look at space weather. Lots going on.
Yeah, even collecting some of the astronauts' saliva. You can learn a lot about the body through the saliva. So just really a lot in a small amount of time in a small capsule.
Yeah, scientific discovery. That's why we go back to the moon.
Yeah. And so, again, her energy just so... oh my God, I can't find the words. So
wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah. I don't know why I couldn't find the word. So anyway, yeah, just really, again, thank you, Dr. Nikki Fox and Jasmine. And so, Nicole, what about answering more questions?
Let's do it.
Okay, great. First one, what was the word I was trying to get at? No, I'm kidding. Let's have the first question up on the screen now. I know we got them. I see him being asked.
And CDR OTC Ryan Earth 1.
Go.
For your awareness, scrubber cycling is about to be restarted.
Integrity copies.
All right, let's try that again. Can we get the next social question, please? What are the G-forces experienced by the Artemis astronauts during launch and reentry?
Ooh, these are actually pretty similar to, a Dragon launch or a shuttle launch. We have to accelerate to get out of the Earth's atmosphere, and then, we talked about the secondary burns that they will do to get away from Earth. But, for me personally, it kind of felt like we got slingshotted off the Earth is how I like to describe it. So, you get set back in your seat and the G forces are into your chest.
CDR OTC Ryan Earth 1.
Go ahead.
Moon leak check complete. The cabin is going to be vented to flight pressure momentarily.
Integrity copies.
That's fantastic news.
Yeah.
Again, so the spacecraft is holding pressure as expected, and so now they will depressurize it, which will take about 6 to 8 minutes. Exciting.
Yes. Yeah.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Like we talked about, continuing to march towards the launch. So the G-forces are into your chest, and it's kind of a slow build, and you can get all the way up to 4.5 Gs into the chest during the launch. And often they have to back off on the thrust a little bit so that you don't get too high in the G-forces, and especially as we go through kind of max Q or that max aerodynamic force, so as they get through the thicker parts of the atmosphere. And then very similar G-forces on the way home, so slow, steady build up to about 4.5 Gs as the rocket actually decelerates. You heard in one of the packages, when they come back, they're going to be going 7 miles a second.
Gosh, that's
and
incredible.
So you have to slow down somehow, and to do that, you have to actually, when you brake in a car, you feel those G-forces, and so for the astronauts, it'll just be, again, into the chest based on the orientation.
Great. Thank you so much for that answer, Nicole, and for that question. We're going to continue to try to take as many as possible. Again, you know how to send them to us at NASA Artemis. But now we again have another question for you, for our audience. We want to know, what part of Artemis II are you most excited for? Liftoff, Earth views from Orion, lunar flyby, or splashdown? Tell us again on NASA's Instagram or Twitch accounts, and we'll share your answers a little later in the broadcast.
That's a tough one. I don't know what my answer would be.
I know. I don't know either. I'm excited for it all, but that's a cop-out. All right, now let's head back over to Banana Creek. Again, the crowds there, really excited. People coming from all over the country, from around the world. Why don't we get another check with Leah Martin to see who she's caught up with now.
Well, Megan, we were a little while ago talking to some students from around the globe. Today, we're actually talking to some local students who are from right here, locally, Merritt Island in Titusville. We talk a lot about the Artemis generation and about the students who are going to become the next generation of dreamers, of engineers, of scientists and technologists. And I'm actually standing with a group of those students here today. Our local high school has actually implemented a really neat new program in the spirit of being able to create these pipelines for employment and engagement. Can you tell me a little bit about what Merritt Island High School is doing?
Sure. Well, this is a new program, first of its kind here in Florida, and basically what we're studying is astronautics and aviation, kind of blended the two together. We have flight simulators in our lab, but students are also learning about engineering, aerospace engineering, and we're trying to make all kinds of pathways available for them, trying to give them opportunities to see which pathway they might want to be interested in. So, yeah, just a great opportunity for them to learn about space. We just finished doing a whole model rocket build where the students took CAD software, developed their own rockets, put them together, and launched them right from our school. So it was very exciting.
Incredible. And then another local high school, Titusville, you guys also have a similar but slightly different program.
Yes, we do space mechatronics with advanced manufacturing, preparing students to build and manufacture things to automate, do automation to build things on Mars and things like that, or locally too.
Now, you told me that you're actually trying to figure out a little bit what you want to do when you're done your freshman in high school. What things are you learning in your class here that are really kind of tweaking your interest in the aeronautics field?
So we're building a lot of things with like metal and how we're supposed to do it on the rockets. We're also doing computer programming, which would help with NASA and like programming and coding.
Absolutely. And you were actually telling me that I think were telling me that you're interested in becoming a pilot. We talked a little bit about the pilot who is on board the rocket right now. How is this program preparing you for your future?
I mean, it's teaching me everything that I know about aviation, and it's really inspiring that I get to learn it in a classroom, like locally as well. It's amazing. I love it.
And then you were also telling me you're taking this class. What's the most interesting thing you've learned?
I really like the whole design part of it, like actually like engineering, like because I want to be an engineer. Engineering the products we use when we build stuff, that's definitely my favorite part, learning how to use those kind of softwares.
Absolutely. Well, Megan, when they're seasoned NASA employees, you'll be able to say that you saw them here first when they were still in high school. Back to you at the desk.
I can also say that they have fans. Nicole Ayers here. As soon as that girl said that she wants to be a pilot, Nicole went, yeah, why is that something that's so thrilling for you to hear?
I mean, I love when kids in high school have goals and they set their goals high and they want to go do something. You know, the kid who wanted to be an engineer or a pilot, like, I love that. You know, find something that you're passionate about, go work hard at it, and go get good at it.
Yeah, and speaking of passion, I mean, we definitely have a whole bunch of people here passionate about what NASA is doing here. Again, the lawn behind us just filled with media from around the world, making sure that they can help tell our story to everyone who is interested in hearing it. So back here in Florida, of course, we have NASA leadership also keeping a close eye on launch operations. Let's go now to Jasmine Hopkins, who is standing by with Lori Glaze, Acting Associate Administrator of NASA's Exploration Systems Development.
Thanks so much, Megan. Yeah, we're honored to welcome Dr. Lori Glaze to the balcony now. Lori, this is our very first time having crew on an Artemis mission. How does that feel, and how does that change our overall approach to the mission?
It's a really good question, and it really came home today when we were watching the crew walk out, and then we saw them get into their van and go out to the pad, and we've been watching them getting into the crew module. And so we've really put an enormous amount of rigor into assuring the safety of our crew. One of the most important things on this mission, different from Artemis I, is we now have environmental controls and life support systems. One of the most important things we're going to do on this mission is test those out and make sure that we can keep our crew healthy and safe throughout their mission. We also on this mission have an activated launch abort system, which we had the system for Artemis I, but it wasn't active. But we definitely had that active on this mission mission. We want the ability, again, if something goes wrong, to be able to have that ability to abort and get them back to the ground again safe.
Absolutely, Lori. I mean, as you're driving home, safety is paramount here at NASA, and your program is responsible for all of these Artemis elements. We have the Space Launch System, Orion, ground system. So how do you get everybody cohesively on the same page for a day like launch?
And that's a great question, and it's really been wonderful to watch our teams working together. We have the ground systems, which are kind of the bookends of our mission. The ground systems help prepare us to get the rocket ready to take off. They're doing all of the loading of the tanks right now and getting the crew into Orion. And then at the back end, they'll be there to recover the crew when they land in the ocean. But they know that their job is to make sure that that rocket is ready to go and that the crew module is ready to go. And then the rocket itself, the space launch systems, they know that their job is to deliver the crew module to the right point in space so that they can conduct their mission. And then again, they have to make sure that everything is ready, that they set them on the trajectory that is going to bring them around the moon and set them up to land in the right place in the Pacific Ocean. And that's their job, and they know how important that is. And they have to work closely with Orion, which again, they also have to work with all the other teams to make sure that everything's working together. And then on top of that, our flight operations teams, all the people on the ground, they're all working together. They know this mission doesn't work unless every single part of the mission works.
Right. Lori, there are so many things that have to work together today. We can't wait to see what happens next. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Of course. And with that, let's take it back to the countdown with NASA's Megan Cruz.
Yeah, and speaking of the countdown, 1 hour, 59 minutes and counting until the opening of our 2-hour launch window at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time. This is a shot of Jetty Park. It's a nearby popular viewing location of rocket launches, and it is so great to see how many people are here. I mean, this is a Wednesday. Like, people had to take time off of school and off of work, but it's something that they felt like they wanted to do, to be here.
Yeah, you know, I think just based on the chatter on the airplane ride yesterday, half of my airplane ride
really?
They were coming to see the launch. You know, everybody's excited and traveling from all over the world to come see this launch.
And it really is a great day. We had some sprinkles here in the crowd, but for the most part, I mean, it's just a beautiful day to witness history.
It is, yeah, you know, a little bit of sprinkles, but for the most part, the clouds are staying away, and you can see the blue sky behind us, so hoping for good weather in a couple hours.
Absolutely. And so Dr. Lori Glaze mentioned what we learned from the Artemis II mission helps pave the way to sustained human presence on the lunar surface. So what are the objectives of this mission to eventually accomplish that? Let's check in with Gary in Mission Control for more.
Thank you, Megan. Yes, the ascent teams are here in Mission Control Houston, working through their steps to prepare for a go for launch. Right up here on the front board, we're watching the teams in the White Room work through their checklist and closing the hatch as we verify ours, working as one NASA team. What Dr. Glaze said about working across the teams throughout the nation is true. It takes one NASA team to bring everything together and accomplish the mission objectives. The Artemis II is designed as the first crewed test flight of NASA's Artemis campaign, sending astronauts into lunar space to validate systems, operations, and human performance ahead of a more complex lunar landing missions. NASA has identified an extensive list of mission and flight test objectives that serve as a checklist to verify the capabilities needed to land humans on the moon. For the Artemis II mission, there are 5 overarching priorities that cover the mission and flight test objectives. First is, of course, the crew. As the first crewed mission inside the Orion spacecraft, this mission serves to demonstrate the capability of safely sustain the flight crew throughout the mission, including launch, the deep space component, and return. Number 2 is systems. This mission brings it all together to validate the performance of all ground and flight systems needed for a long-term lunar campaign, from launch infrastructure to spacecraft operations in deep space. Third is hardware and data. We'll be gathering performance data as much as possible over the Deep Space Network, but we also aim to retrieve onboard data and hardware after splashdown to gather additional insight and improve future Artemis missions. Fourth is emergency operations. The crew and flight control team will be testing emergency systems such as abort procedures, rescue operations, and contingency responses. During the flight, astronauts will rehearse a number of these procedures to ensure that in the event of a real emergency, the planned procedures and operations are sound. And finally, there's subsystem validation. Engineers will be verifying subsystems across the board to ensure reliability across life support, propulsion, avionics, and navigation systems aboard the Orion spacecraft. Human spaceflight is a complicated endeavor that requires precision and confidence across all disciplines. You may hear the phrase, human spaceflight is the greatest team sport, a few times in today's coverage, and it's absolutely true. Not only does it need mastery of specific components, but the integration extends across thousands of people and facilities around the world to come together and make it all work. A lot of the work from many people has led to this moment, a rocket at the pad with humans on board, ready to put everything we worked for to the test. I'm certainly excited about it. The teams here in this room are looking forward to supporting the mission, and I hope those watching are as excited as we are. We are following the countdown here in Mission Control Houston. Everything continues to look good. Now inside 2 hours from the beginning of the launch window. With that, I will send it back over to you, Megan and Nicole.
Hey, Gary, thank you so much. We are getting word that the launch team is working something that we would like to give you an update on. So let's get on over to Daryl.
All right, thank you, Megan. And we are live in Firing Room 1 here at the Launch Control Complex. Yes, we are currently not working any constraints with regards to the rocket or the ground systems. But the launch team has been made aware of an issue that the range is working. And currently they're monitoring that work that is going on over at the range. We understand that that issue is related to the flight termination system. Now, the flight termination system, just to give you a quick explainer, every rocket has a flight termination system. It's the system that the Eastern Range here uses in order to send a destruct signal to a rocket in case it veers off path. So it's a very critical, important safety component in terms of how the range keeps the public safe here. We understand that the flight termination system, they're working an issue. And so as they continue to work that issue, they've asked for some assistance from the launch team to help verify some of the work that they're doing on their FTS system. And this is where it gets a pretty unique situation here. The assistance they've asked for is to verify what's going on with their system. They want to check it to see that the work they're doing is okay. And in order to do that, the FTS console operator inside the firing room has been asked to help them verify it. And the way that they're going to do that, and the solution that he proposed to check and verify the system with the launch director, and she gave the approval, is to go get a piece of heritage equipment from inside the VAB that was used during the space shuttle program. And this equipment is able to receive commands by the range through the flight termination system. And so with this piece of equipment, this console operator who works FTS was granted permission to go over to the VAB next door and get this equipment that he's very much aware of and used during the space shuttle era. And so that is in work right now. The bottom line of all this is, at this moment, the range is no-go. But that is not stopping us from moving forward in the countdown. We can continue to process and work the countdown. The closeout crew will continue to do their work, and the launch team will continue to do their work as well. But we'll keep you updated on what happens in regards to, as far as my understanding goes, a pretty unique situation here with trying to bring resolution and kind of help out the situation that we're seeing at the range right now. And that's the latest here from the firing room. We'll send it back to Megan and Nicole out the host desk.
Thank you, Daryl. Yes, very unique, but I think it speaks to the ingenuity of this team, right? To say, hey, we have this equipment at the VAB. Why don't we leverage it to try to solve this issue and work it?
Yeah, what a great example of human creativity, right? We know this thing exists. Let's go solve this problem. We have time, you know, like Daryl said, we're going to continue to march down the countdown. So we'll continue to get the rocket and the crew ready, but we still have that 2-hour window. So in the meantime, let's try to figure out what's happening with the range. And
speaking of the range, what is the range for people who might not watch rocket launches with us often?
Sure, yeah. So anytime that you launch a rocket, you have to clear the airspace, right, in the launch corridor. So where the rocket's flight path is going to go, you have to make sure that that whole airspace is clear. And so we actually have assets, you know, the Space Force helps us out with this one, but, you know, we want to make sure that there aren't airplanes in the way and there aren't other, you know, maritime assets in the way or things like that. So that there's a whole group of people. We talked about, actually, Gary said it great, right? It's a huge team sport, and so there's a whole group here on the ground that is monitoring that launch corridor to make sure it's clear and ready to go. And so if they're having issues, then we definitely can't launch this rocket. We don't want to launch blind into a corridor that we can't see.
Yeah, because as Daryl said, I mean, it is very important, the flight termination system, needing to activate it in case of an emergency. So yes, something that we will closely be monitoring throughout the countdown, and hopefully again won't be an issue, that they can fix this issue by going to the heritage hardware that's in the vehicle assembly building.
Right, what a great idea.
Okay, so again, under 2 hours from the opening of our 2-hour launch window, 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time. The crew, as you can see there, inside of Orion, relaxing, getting updates from the team, but also just getting in the right headspace for hopefully launch today. Let's learn a little more about each of them now.
The moon, to me, it's the thing that connects me together with all the other humans in my life. I remember being a little kid lying in bed at night and just looking out at the moon in whatever phase it was in, and I was thinking, man, my friends that live like 20 miles away, they can probably look out and see that same exact moon. And then when I was in the Navy and I would look out at the moon and I'd be halfway around the planet, I would think, man, my brother can see that moon where he is, and he's halfway around the planet from where I am. To me, it's a connection of life on Earth. We can all look up and see that moon, and it's always changing. The moon is never the same 2 days in a row. I love that. My name is Reed Wiseman. I'm the commander of NASA's Artemis II mission around the moon. I grew up in a little town just north of Baltimore, Maryland, about 20 miles north of the city. There was a National Guard base nearby my house, and there were A-10 aircraft that would fly over every now and then. I just would look up at them and be like, man, I want to be up there. I want to go do that. And then my brother went to the Naval Academy, and I would go every year and watch the Blue Angels fly during commencement, and that just started to grow and grow and grow. For a while, I wanted to join the Air Force, and then I realized Navy flies as well, and they fly from ships in the middle of the ocean, and that was it. Like, done deal for me. That is exactly what I wanted to do for my career. Flying is freedom to me, especially when you're in a jet aircraft coming off of an aircraft carrier in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Nearest land is over 1,500 miles away. So when you come off of that aircraft carrier, you are truly just alone with yourself out there. It is a magical experience to be out there all by yourself in an aircraft over the Pacific. Just it's free. I think anybody who accomplishes something that they set their mind out to, there's no one thing that does it for them. It's a combination of everything. I mean, the way my parents raised me, the way my brother and I, the way our relationship developed over time, my friends, being in the marching band, going to college, setting my own course, learning how to live on my own, being mentored along the way, being, kept on the path to success, but being given the freedom to, make excursions and fail every now and then and regroup and carry on. I think all those things come together in the end to get you where you are. I've had to overcome, I'm a human being. I've had to overcome a lot of fears. I'm pretty scared of heights. I joked about that on the International Space Station, but it turns out I'm only scared like at the edge of a building. When you're up on the International Space Station, even though you're 250 miles up, I never had that feeling of falling or that I was, at risk up there. I just kind of loved the feeling of floating and looking down at Earth. There have been challenges all throughout my life. By far, the biggest challenge was losing my wife in 2020 to cancer and now raising two daughters who are grown up now, but that's been the biggest challenge by far I've ever had to face. It is not easy being an only parent, trying to work a full-time job, and raising two kids is something that I think about every single day. I'm very proud of the work I've done. I haven't always done it well, but I've always shown up and tried as hard as I possibly can.
I I do wonder what it's going to be like when we are really far from Earth and can see it. The sensation of being so far away from everything that you know. I had that sensation on the space station the first time I got to sit in the cupola for a really long time. So I can only imagine what that's going to be like from 200,000 plus miles away. My name is Victor Glover, and I'm the pilot for NASA's Artemis II mission around the moon. When I was in 4th grade, I was 10 years old, and that's when the Challenger accident happened. And it helped me understand how the general public felt about the astronaut corps, right? Like, these are the people that we want to be, and that just gave me an easy thing to strive toward. The biggest fear that I've had to overcome in my life is doubting myself. Going to college when no one in my family had gone to college was a huge risk. I had more confidence in my athletic ability than in my academic abilities. I could play football with those college students that I saw on TV, but my classmates that I saw in the lab and around the University Union, I didn't know if I had what they had. I think addressing that self-doubt was a part of, swinging for the fence and trying to go get an engineering degree, not just go to college, but get an engineering degree and then go do something challenging and technical like flying. Apollo is known for sending humans to the moon. Artemis has an opportunity to continue the Apollo story, but I actually think it's important for this story to stand on its own. Artemis is a new program, and we're trying to do new things. And it's great to compare and contrast. When you look at our spaceship, you can see parts that were designed, built, and integrated in another country. When you look at our crew, you see that our crew is international. There are also men and women. And I just think that comparing and contrasting makes the story even richer. The piloting role specifically, I will have an hour and a half or so where I get to fly the spacecraft by hand. We haven't flown that many spaceships. And so the ability to fly one actually in space on a test mission is just a really unique opportunity. I can't tell you how I'm going to feel when we fly by the moon and see the moon up close and the Earth from 250,000 miles away, but I don't use the word excited because I'm focused. What we do, this is very serious and it's very risky, and we are all intimately familiar with that risk. And so if we go out there and we're successful and we can pass that baton on to Artemis III, that's something to really be excited about.
I tell a story, which is one that my dad told me before the Apollo missions when he was just a very little boy. He was looking up at the moon with his mom, and his mom said to him, "Don't worry, Ronnie, we'll never get there." Fast forward maybe 70 years later, it's his daughter that's actually going there. And I think that long arc is something that we can all learn from. The idea that the seemingly impossible becomes possible if you just believe in it and are willing to work hard and come together to achieve it. My name is Christina Cook, and I'm a mission specialist for NASA's Artemis II mission around the moon. When I look back on my dreams as a kid, I definitely never thought I would actually get here. I was very pragmatic. Even though I'm a dreamer, I knew that the odds were way against me again, so I might as well do something I'm loving in the meantime. I definitely loved science and math in school and, did pretty well in those things, but I also loved being active. I was always outside. I loved things that made me feel small. I loved looking at the night sky, oftentimes between the pine tree branches, or I loved the ocean. North Carolina also has mountains, and when we go there, I just loved the vastness of all of those things. I loved how they made me feel and what they made me think about, and the vastness of the universe and how much out there was to learn. I'm drawn to exploring. I'm drawn to challenges that involve both mental and physical, and I'd much rather be solving problems wearing a whole lot of equipment and in a harsh environment, and that's just something I've carried with me ever since I was a kid. Thinking about the fears or challenges that I've had to overcome, there are just so many. Basically, it's just that has been the journey. I always say to people, do what scares you, and that means I have to follow my own advice. So doing what scares me meant getting on a plane and going to the Antarctic, getting on a plane and going to study abroad in Ghana, applying to become an astronaut, opening the EVA hatch in the airlock and going out of it into the darkness, strapping myself onto a rocket. And so for me, I think that no matter what the challenge, recognizing that if people believe in you and you believe they believe in you, the challenges seem always a little bit easier. To me, the moon, it represents history. It is a witness plate. Everything that's ever happened to the moon is still written on the moon. Every single person has looked at the moon their entire lives. We see the same moon. That's something really special. It's just the epitome of a symbol of something that's in each of our hearts, but that's also represents exploration and reaching.
I have this very distinct memory of seeing an image of an astronaut standing on the moon. It's burnt in my brain because I went back to it so many times in my childhood, and I would look at that image, and I know it had a huge impact on me that humans had walked on the moon. My name is Colonel Jeremy Hansen. I'm an astronaut with the Canadian Space Agency, and I'm a mission specialist on NASA's Artemis II mission around the moon. My elementary school years, I grew up on a farm outside of London, Ontario. I spent as much time as I could with my dad on the farm. I learned the value of hard work, for example. If I wanted to go to work with Dad, it was going to be a long day, and I was going to have to not complain, or I wasn't going to get to go the next day. I had a treehouse. I had a vivid imagination, and I changed my treehouse into a spaceship. I made all these dials and controls. I had circuit breakers for switches that I found in the barn, and I was exploring space in my imagination. The most important thing I did to get to where I wanted to go in life, which was flying fighter jets and eventually becoming an astronaut, is I shared those desires with other people. And it turns out, just like you don't go to the moon on your own, if you could, I would have done it a long time ago in my treehouse as a kid, you have to go as a team. I think the biggest impediment to achieving my goals was, of course, myself. And I think that's a common human experience. There are many times where just little things would get in my way, and my immediate interpretation of that was, well, now that goal's out the window. You know, people must have lifted me back up, and somewhere in the back of my head, that persistence came through. And I think that's a common human experience, to doubt ourselves. I've come to this, I guess, realization that I believe that we all have gifts to contribute, and the goal is to figure out how to use your energy towards adding positively to humanity's existence on this planet. But I love it when humanity sets big goals, like sending humans to the surface of the moon with an eye to eventually going to Mars, because when we do that, we can bring together genius from not just even in one country, but around the world. I've also learned from my indigenous mentors that they refer to the moon as Grandmother Moon. So you've probably heard of Mother Earth. They use Grandmother Moon because Grandmother Moon is responsible for the water in their community, just like the moon moves the water around the planet, affects the tides. And I think that's a really beautiful thing for us as we go back to the moon, to think about all the different cultures around the world and how they view the moon differently. And that's really neat because we all share that same moon in the night sky.
One hour, 38 minutes and counting until the opening of the Artemis II launch window today, 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time. And we are looking at the rocket and Orion out on the pad, historic launch pad 39B here at Kennedy Space Center. What a great view, Nicole.
Yes, it is. You know, we can see the clouds out in front of us, but they are to the west. And you can see that there's some blue sky peeking through behind that rocket, which is good news.
And more people continue to come on center here. About a couple of hours ago, folks with special passes to come on center were allowed to start driving on with family and friends. And of course, we have media growing by the moment here at the press site here at Kennedy Space Center, setting up their cameras, setting up tents, interviewing folks. Again, this great jib shot that we have from our camera here showing all the interest that we have here at the press site. And actually, even to the right of us, so camera left, no, sorry, the right of your screen, left of us, plenty of other people there, set up with their own tents, broadcasting to their own viewers. And so again, just really cool to see everybody wanting to share in this moment.
Yeah, that's, I mean, how many media tents we can see from here. it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I think it's important to share this message with the whole world.
Yeah. And so let's take a look now at people who are watching in other parts of the country. We have this shot here from the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama.
Oh, man, look
Just
at that.
kidding. Museum of Flight, Seattle, Washington. So sorry. Hello to you over there. Sorry, I thought that you were in Alabama. But here you are from Seattle, Washington. Again, the Museum of Flight. They must have had a special event to bring people there to watch, as well as a special event here. Now, correctly, the U.S. Space and Rocket Center, Huntsville, Alabama. Of course, they would have a lot of people here, and I'm sure this crowd will grow when we get closer to launch. Marshall, the home of the SLS rocket.
Yes. Yeah, this is a great shot. You can see all the people there, and obviously you've got quite a few artifacts in there as well. Oh,
now
they
know.
Yes.
Yeah, now they know. They're on the broadcast. That's too funny.
Awesome.
Hey, listen, it's all right. We can sit. We can sit and chill until we wait for the opening of the window. No, there they are.
Yeah. Everybody's excited.
Thank you guys for showing us your excitement. I know deep down it was in there. It's just that you felt like sitting at the moment, and that's all right.
There's a little delay.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, thanks so much to those supporting these watch parties and bringing them to us live here. Actually, our video paths are taking quite a circuitous route to be able to bring those live views in from Seattle as well as Alabama, but we're glad that we can be able to share it with you in the broadcast now. And so why are we going to the moon? Why does NASA want to build a moon base there? Here's Megan Carter again with our moon board.
All right, thank you, Megan. Yeah, so we are right around that hour-and-a-half mark, hopefully for that launch. It's going to be very exciting. So they are going to have a few days to be around the low Earth orbit, and then they'll be heading on to the moon. So yes, let's talk what will be happening. Why are we going to the moon? So obviously this is not going to be a landing, as we've discussed. They are going to be coming with 4,000 to 6,000 feet around the moon's surface, and this is going to connect us directly to our past. Those Apollo missions did have 6 lunar landings, and the Artemis campaign is looking to build on that past by going back to the moon, staying longer, and then going farther. So how are we going to do that, and why? We have obviously talked a little bit about that lunar South Pole, and we are focused specifically on the far side of the moon for this one for a specific reason. You might have guessed we're going to be looking for some resources especially, and that's going to be water or water ice. That is going to be giving us some really critical pieces for future missions. And as you can see here, we have identified 9 potential landing zones. So this is going to be a critical objective for our crew. Depending on when they launch, it will determine what is going to be visible, but we do have these 9 landing zones right here around the Shackleton crater. And as you can see here, a lot of that area is deep and dark, and that is where we are going to be looking for that water ice, because that is obviously going to give us not just water to drink, but as we know, that can actually be converted into our propellant potentially, that hydrogen and oxygen. So that is going to make the moon a critical place for that moon base, because we want to think of it essentially as a backpacking trip. If you have your tent and your hiking boots and your camping stove and all your gear, you don't want to take that out and be on the trail for the first day and then try everything out. You're going to test things out a little bit closer to home before you go out on that adventure. And that kind of goes for us as well. So the moon is going to be critical for us in the future steps towards our lunar landings, and then also for going farther on to Mars in the future. It's going to set us up for that deep space exploration, and we can't wait to see what they see once they get to that flyby. But for now, we are, like I said, getting closer. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Megan.
Exciting stuff. Again, the idea of accomplishing a moon base, like as we've been saying, sometimes things just seem like science fiction, and it's amazing that we're making it science fact.
Yes, yeah, we're going back. We're going to scout it out, and then on the future Artemis missions, we're going to put boots back on the moon for the first time in over half a century. But we're going to stay, and we're going to learn from the moon, and we're going to, as Megan talked about, the water ice, and harness that resource, and, not only learn from the moon about Earth and about the solar system, but also figure out how we get to Mars from the moon.
And so what we're seeing now back inside the White Room with the closeout team, they are removing basically fixtures that protected the crew module hatch while they did work around it, right, Nicole?
Yep. Yeah, so anytime that you're moving around and working, there are some sensitive sensors and parts of the crew module that we don't want to kick or bump into, and so it's easier to just put a guard up while you're working in there and then take it down later.
And so this is a visual cue for us that the team is getting ready to close the last hatch, again, the launch abort system hatch. Can you tell us about what the last is?
Yeah, so launch abort system, this is, you know, we have the crew module, and then what sits out basically on top of the crew module is the launch abort system, and it has its own motors, so that we'll arm it about 5 minutes prior to launch, and then it stays with the crew module until about the Kármán line, so that 100-kilometer point in space. Once the crew could safely get to orbit, it will actually be jettisoned, and the crew module will then be exposed. So this is just a safety mechanism that stays on the outside of the crew module, and then as they monitor the attitude and the thrust and all sorts of the roll, all sorts of different data points to make sure the crew is safely getting to orbit. And once they are safely to orbit, then we will get rid of that launch abort system.
And it looks like they're putting all these parts that they're removing from around the crew module hatch into a bag because they have to take this out with them once they leave the pad, right?
Yes, yeah, we don't want anything left up there in the White Room, and especially because that crew access arm will move away from the capsule and the rocket, and so we want an empty White Room, no FOD like we talked about, so that we can have a safe launch.
And this orange tube that you see on the right side of your screen, that had been inside the crew module providing breathable air to the crew. And now again, with the crew module closed and them getting ready to close the second hatch, that has been removed and is out of the way. So again, the closeout crew can continue to do their work.
Yeah, that's just a duct to provide some cooling air and some breathing air to the crew and the closeout crew while they're in there.
That's actually a good point, yeah. And so as we continue to watch the crew prepare to close the launch abort system hatch, why don't we take a look at the crew's mission patch? Now, crews have designed their official mission patches since the Gemini 5 launch in 1965. Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy, they really wanted to play on the abbreviation of Artemis II to all, signifying not only the second major flight of the Artemis program, but also a mission to explore for all, by all. The crew chose the iconic Earthrise photo for a reason. It was taken by the Apollo 8 crew in 1968, the first crew to ever fly around the moon. The mission was to prove teams then were ready to land on the moon the same way Artemis II hopes to fly around the moon ahead of a lunar landing with Artemis IV. This time, as we've been saying throughout the broadcast, to stay on the moon and pave the way to Mars.
Yeah, we talk about incremental steps, right? And so Artemis II is very similar to Apollo 8 in terms of that increment. They're going to fly around the moon and set up the rest of the Artemis program for landing on the moon, but also with a nod towards the fact that we do this for all humanity. And I love the thoughtfulness and how much importance they put on their patch design.
Another camera angle of inside the Orion spacecraft.
I was going to say we might be able to see Rise, but I think it's right behind Reed's foot there.
And so to orient people again, so basically we have Christina in your upper right hand, Christina in your upper left hand corner. Then you have Jeremy below her. And then the feet you're seeing, those are Reed's feet. And then next to him, the upper right hand corner, that is Victor, who's unfortunately hidden by Reed's feet, but again, that is the orientation of the crew inside Orion right now. Now, earlier this week, the crew got to stick their patch on a wall just outside the suit-up room. We can play that video there now. You can see that crews have been doing this as part of a pre-flight tradition again. Wow, Reed just making sure that thing won't come
sure
off.
It's flat.
And so now Victor is signing there, followed by Christina, and then Jeremy. That's a fun tradition, and your patch is up there too.
It is, yeah, ours is on the left-hand side there. Yeah, it's a fun tradition. This is a really fun day too. You know, they did this a couple days ago, but it's just another step that makes it a little bit more real that you're going to be launching soon.
Again, we talked a little bit about this before. The basically like a computer there on Jeremy's leg, a way for him to just check out the data, see some of the data that also Reed and Victor are getting to see, but in those much bigger displays for Orion.
Right, yeah, it's basically a tablet on his leg, and it's actually plugged into a cord nearby that allows him to have a screen repeater so he can see what they're looking at.
And it looks like he's taking notes. Can you talk a little bit about what that is? It's part of, all of them have like a little procedural book, right?
Right, yeah, so they have what we call a knee board, and they'll have blank pages to take notes on. They might have a cue card or procedures, or they can be kind of custom built to what each crew member wants for their knee board.
This mission, of course, built by people and companies in all 50 states, as we've been saying throughout the broadcast, and with our international partners as well. Let's take a look at some of the people playing such a big role in today's test flight.
What we're doing here is a collaborative effort of hundreds of thousands of people.
This is about the parts, the hardware, the software, the services, all coming together to make that mission possible.
My dream for this space program is that we would not just push the boundaries, but that we push them together.
And liftoff of Artemis I. We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
It takes a team to do great things. And Artemis has an incredible team.
We have international partners. We have commercial partners and industry partners.
It takes unity to accomplish great things, and that's what this mission's all about.
We're not sending our money to the moon and lighting it on fire. We're putting that money right back into the economy in ways that benefit everybody. So every dollar that comes out of the Treasury that goes to support this mission goes back into the Treasury 3 times. What is very important to me is that we do it the right way, and that we do it with our values, that our industries grow, that our communities grow, that our families are healthy and safe and have amazing things to work on. Then we're going to build machines to go even further onto Mars.
That is our generation, the Artemis generation, that defines the starting point of our exploration future.
I just want to say thank you to all of the hands that have touched a part of this program and the hearts that have moved everyone to this goal, because we're going to the moon and we're going beyond.
One team.
One team.
One team.
One dream.
What I really like about that package is, again, just reminding people that this is spurring so many jobs across the country.
Yeah, across the country and across the world, right? The whole world has a part of this. The Artemis Accords are signed by over 40, 50 different countries. And so, yeah, we're taking all of the taxpayers' money and we're putting it right back into the jobs here in the U.S.
And the money, too. You know, when we have more disposable income because we have good paying jobs, that's money that goes back into our economy as disposable income. So really, it is just an ecosystem that NASA is proud to be a part of.
Right. Not only is it about the money and the economy, right, but it's also about the science and what we're going to learn and exploration. You know, on top of all of those things, we benefit the economy as well.
Obviously, Nicole is a wealth of knowledge. We're very lucky to have her. We're going to be tapping into that knowledge throughout the broadcast, and we have been for now close to 4 hours. So thank you, Nicole. I hope you're holding up okay.
Yeah, I'm loving it out here. It's been great.
Let's learn a little bit more about Nicole. Her first mission to space was actually last March. She launched from here at Kennedy Space Center as pilot of NASA NASA's SpaceX Crew 10 mission to the International Space Station. And what a beautiful launch that was. She spent 148 days in space conducting science experiments that could benefit us on Earth. For example, one studied the physics of liquids, which could help researchers deliver medicines more effectively. She also conducted an almost 6-hour spacewalk to help upgrade the orbiting lab's power system. Nicole is a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force and flew one of its most advanced aircraft. She was born in San Diego, California, and is a twin. That's a cute photo of the two of you. Oh, that one too.
Young explorers, yeah.
Yes, yes. That's so great to just see how far you've come. Again, I think that speaks to what we've been saying. Like, you know, just if you're passionate about something, go for it and see where that takes you.
Yeah, I think that's a great example. You know, I was a serious little kid with really high goals and, you know, just kept working hard and never got bumped up the path and ended up here. And, you know, I think it's a testament to the human, like we talked about, you know, if you're willing to work hard, be a good team player, you can really get anywhere you want in life. And that's what I love to talk about. Christina has mentioned similar things. And so it's been kind of a theme for the day.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a theme for the day, a theme for the team. The team has said the same, the crew has said the same sort of things. So absolutely, Nicole, thank you so much for being here. And hopefully only a little bit more until launch today.
Hopefully.
So today's Artemis II test flight will mark only the 7th time NASA astronauts will launch on a new NASA spacecraft designed for crew. And then controlling the flight will be Mission Control in Houston. Our Gary Jordan is inside with flight controllers. Hey, Gary.
Hey, Megan, you are right. This is a significant milestone, and we may be putting the names of a few more astronauts in the history books today. The Artemis II crew is set to launch today will join a select list of humans to fly in a spacecraft for the very first time. And Artemis II, like missions before it, is a test mission. During ascent, the crew and the teams here in the room are prepared for a variety of scenarios. Some of these will be called out directly by Capcom Stan Love during ascent, and some are a little more subtle. These calls can be split into two categories: alternate main engine cutoff or MECO targets and aborts. First, there are 2 alternate MECO targets, or AMTs. These note milestones to give flight control teams and astronauts an idea of what would happen after that moment should the core stage lose one of the main engines. First is AMT low. You won't hear it called out by the crew or Capcom since this happens right at liftoff. If the core stage loses one engine at this moment, an abort once around option could be made at main engine cutoff, meaning the crew could target a splashdown in the Pacific. The second is AMT high, which will be called out by Capcom's Stan Love around 22 seconds. After this moment, if the core stage loses an engine, we can still pursue an alternate mission in low Earth orbit to accomplish some of the test objectives. And at about 5 minutes, 16 seconds into the flight, you'll hear the call 3-engine press. This is a good moment. After this point, if the core stage loses an engine, we can still make a nominal main engine cutoff and pursue a moon mission as expected. Again, these MECO targets give the flight control teams and crew an idea of what lies ahead should one main engine be lost, but assumes we are otherwise continuing to a main engine cutoff target. This differs from an abort, where the Orion capsule separates from the Space Launch System prior to the planned separation time. There are abort options at every moment that integrity is attached to the Space Launch System, from the pad to more than 3 hours into the mission. During the first 8 or so minutes of powered flight, there are 3 abort options. First is the use of the launch abort system, which you see at the very top of the rocket, and here in the White Room where the hatch is open and teams are working to close it. This particular abort capability can be used from here at the pad through roughly 3 minutes and 22 seconds into the flight. Next is an untargeted abort splashdown, or UAS. This uses Orion's service module engines to escape the SLS and becomes available immediately after the launch abort system jettisons. Third is an abort once around, or AOA. You'll hear Capcom Stan Love call AOA open around 7 minutes 30 seconds into the flight. This also uses the service module engines, but the burn profile is a bit different to aim for a splashdown in the Pacific after one trip around the Earth. NASA's expedited recovery teams are staged off the coast of San Diego to get to the crew and integrity quickly for this abort option. An AOA option continues to be available until solar arrays are deployed on the Orion service module a little more than 30 minutes into the mission. At this point, an abort to orbit or ATO option becomes available until separation from the upper stage around 3 hours and 23 minutes. Mission profiles can vary depending on when an ATO is executed in that window, but with power being drawn from solar arrays, it buys more time for astronauts and flight control teams to make decisions and stay in Earth orbit, return for a splashdown, or continue to the moon. The Artemis II crew and flight control teams are well trained on all of these scenarios, and the calls you'll hear to the crew on Orion to Earth may help them be in a ready state for whatever challenge may come their way. At this time, we're not tracking any significant issues here in mission control in Houston, Texas. That would be showstoppers for today's launch. We're continuing to, of course, monitor the countdown along the way
MS1,
and make sure all systems are go for when we reach T0. With that, I'll send it back to you, Megan, at the Kennedy Space Center.
All right, we are ready for another reading if you are ready over there.
Yes, sir. CBA is steady at 2,600 PSI.
All right, copy that. And you know, the more times we ask you to do that, the closer we get to launch, so that's a good thing.
Copy.
You heard it there from NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding. The more that they keep on asking her how the pressure is holding in the counterbalance assembly mechanism is a good thing, because it means we are getting closer to launch. So that's amazing news over the loops that we just heard on Orion to Earth 1. Again, that communication channel with the crew. But now I want to get back over to Daryl with the launch team. He has an update now on the flight termination system that the team was tracking.
All right. Thank you very much, Megan. And we're getting an update now from the launch team as we speak. All right, stand by 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. and the closeout crew that you see right there, right on time with their work as they go to shut, and you can see it in motion right now, that launch abort system hatch. That's the latest from the firing room. We'll send it back to the host desk.
Thank you so much, Daryl. Great news all around. And yes, we did just see them close the last hatch. And now we are looking at a live view of Banana Creek. Lots of people there, I'm sure, relieved to hear that that issue with the flight termination system has been resolved. And we are go for launch. Go for launch from the range, go for weather, and go from all of them, I would imagine.
Yes, it's going to be exciting. The crowd is building. And as Daryl said, you can start to see the sun poking out here, and we can see all the clouds are moving north and moving away from us. So it's all good news.
And so as we know, we have our Leah Martin down there at the Banana Creek viewing location, and she's standing by with some other guests.
Hey, Megan, I don't know if you heard that huge cheer just now. If you heard a big rumble, as soon as Daryl said that the range was clear for launch, everybody clapped. It was super excited as we get to do some final countdowns. Standing next to me, I have Hudson and Maddox, the son of brothers here. And I asked you a little bit earlier, how excited are you to be here for launch? What did you say?
I'm very excited. It's our mom's birthday, and, you know,
not a better way to celebrate right now. I asked you on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you? Would you say?
11. Yeah, 11. I'm very excited. Super excited. Yeah.
So, Megan, we've been watching the launch broadcast here and hearing some of the questions that you and Nicole have been asking and answering. And I actually wanted to ask these two kids, if you could take a 10-day trip around the moon and take 3 people with you, who'd you take with you?
Well, I'd take my dad and my mom. And I mean, I don't know, probably my best friend. I'd just say one of my friends, you know.
Oh, one of your friends. So brother got left out. Who would you take?
That was just what I was thinking. My dad and my mom and my best friend.
That's a pretty good answer. Your brother can get his own trip to space, right? Yeah. So I'm actually joined here also by Dad. Now, you were sharing with me that a lot of the work that you've been doing over the last several months has been prepping the launch teams, our engineering teams, our ground systems teams to get ready for launch, to be mindful and to be in this moment. How does it feel to be standing here knowing that the people you've worked so closely with are doing what they're passionate about, or doing what they were born to do, moments away from launching this rocket?
I mean, this is an exceptionally happy moment for us and all of us and the people that are, you know, about to take off on this historic trip here. And I'm grateful to know that we've helped in some way, shape, or form to help them stay steady and calm, you know, in such an exciting time within the agency. And so to just be here and witness it and know that, you know, they've got some tools to help them stay calm and steady is everything to us. So
fantastic. Well, Megan, we are standing by ready to go, and we're ready to cheer this team on.
Thanks so much, guys. And yes, Leo, we did hear that cheer. That was
sections where they get to take a nap, but I don't think they get a full night's rest for quite some time. So,
yeah,
going through what's next.
And so as we say that, I mean, imagine what it would be like to live in a spacecraft for 10 days. Let's take a look at what life will be like in Orion.
Artemis II is our first crewed mission back to the moon since the Apollo program. A lot of the focus of Artemis II is really checking out systems to be sure that we're ready and well positioned for continued human exploration. My name is Susan Baggerman, and I'm the Chief Health and Performance Officer for the Orion program and the Artemis II mission. And this is 10 Days in Orion. For this mission, the crew will launch in the Orion spacecraft on top of the Space Launch System rocket, or the SLS rocket. Once they've launched and achieved orbit, they'll continue on checking out many of the different critical Orion systems, check out some of the critical medical systems, and be sure that we understand how the crew would do that successfully within the volume of Orion. We also have, of course, systems to feed the crew. They have a potable water dispenser that they'll check out. And then we also have a food warmer, kind of looks like a suitcase that the crew can use to heat their food. They're also going to check out the flight wheel system. We'll have the crew perform some initial exercises. Part of that is to ensure that the flight wheel is actually working, but part of it is actually to be sure that our environmental control systems are actually working. For sleeping, the crew will sleep in sleeping bags. Some crew members like to be very tightly bound up, and some like to float very free. They'll use the toilet for the first time and be sure that it's able to flush.
Just like other crews before them, they gathered around a table for a card game to pass the time, but to also burn off any lingering bad luck before they walked in the footsteps of every NASA astronaut launching from Kennedy Space Center since Apollo 7 in 1968. They walked outside the Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building to greet a crowd of family, friends, supporters before getting into their Astrovan for their security-escorted ride out to historic Launch Complex 39B. They got a close-up look at the SLS rocket, then walked across the crew access arm and climbed one by one inside their Orion spacecraft. After that, teams conducted final checks with the crew before closing both hatches, the crew module hatch, as well as what you're seeing there, the launch abort system hatch. And now we are back live at the pad where the closeout crew is getting ready to leave the White Room. They are now tethered, Nicole, because they are about to move some pieces that connect the Orion spacecraft to the White Room, correct?
Yes, there's kind of what I would call a shroud. You can see them working that there. So it is actually connected, so that way the gap between the crew access arm and the crew module, and well, I guess that's the LAS there, is covered. But they're about to remove that so that the crew access arm is not connected to the rocket in any way, so that it can retract here in the next few minutes.
And for how we're looking with the launch countdown milestones, let's go to Daryl Nail in the Launch Control Center.
All right, thank you very much, Megan. And as you can see there, the finishing touches, as you've been talking about, to the LAS, which brings me to that subject, because we currently on the LAS. The engineer who is in charge of the launch abort system sits on console here, reported that a temperature for one of the two LAS batteries is out of range, and although it's not a constraint for launch right now, device, sometimes this broadcast might be a little behind what you're actually seeing. So just keep that in mind as you are watching. Don't wait to the last second to run outside if you're inside your RV or your camper. Or your house. That's the latest here from the firing room. Of course, we'll keep trying.
But yes, so obviously, again, things proceeding as we march closer to the opening of our 2-hour launch window at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, the closeout crew just finishing up those last couple of things they have to do before leaving the White Room and then leaving the pad, leaving only the 4 Artemis II crew members inside the spacecraft by themselves at the pad.
Yeah, and then we'll be curious to follow the battery issue on the LAS as well. I think sometimes it's just a sensor issue, sometimes it's a battery issue. So hopefully they figure that out quickly.
Mm-hmm. And so if we can take a shot of the crew inside the capsule, if one's available, why don't we talk a little bit more about each of them? So we have Artemis II Commander Reed Wiseman, Baltimore native, and he's actually, you see his feet in that shot there from inside Orion. He's been in space once before as flight engineer for Expedition 41 aboard the International Space Station from May through November 2014. During the 165-day mission, Reed and his crewmates completed more than 300 science experiments in areas like human physiology, medicine, physical science, earth science, as well as astrophysics. They actually set a milestone for station science by completing a record 82 research hours in a single week. He also served as chief of NASA's astronaut office from December 2020 to December 2022. His 2 daughters were out to wave goodbye to him as he made his way to the launch pad. And again, there's Reed's feet. Reed is the one sitting in the seat to the right, closest to our camera there. So looks like he's relaxed by the body language of his feet.
Yeah, you know, I think they're kind of in a holding pattern, if you will, or a waiting period. So it makes sense that he's a little bit relaxed. He's also kind of just a relaxed person. In general, he's wicked smart, but has a demeanor that keeps everybody calm, and so I think we're seeing that here today.
And so in this shot, Reed is the one sitting on the left, and to his right, Artemis II pilot Victor Glover. NASA selected the California native as an astronaut in 2013. But yes, so obviously, again, things proceeding as we march closer to the opening of our 2-hour launch window at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, the closeout crew just finishing up those last couple of things they have to do before.
I think he does.
He got to say goodbye to his wife and 4 kids. Again, those were the family that he had here at Kennedy Space Center before the 4 of them drove out to the pad.
Yeah, and you can see there, we talked about Victor's energy earlier, and you can see him working through, you know, pushing some buttons on the displays. Looked like he was pulling up a procedure, so he's following along and ready to go, looks like.
And then mission specialist Christina Cook, sitting on the upper left-hand corner of the screen there, native of Grand Rapids, Michigan, was selected to the Astronaut Corps in 2013, same class as Victor, served as flight engineer on the International Space Station from March 2019 to February 2020. During that time, she set a record for the longest single spaceflight by a woman with a total of 328 consecutive days in space. How cool. She also participated in the first ever all-female spacewalk. And before becoming an astronaut, Christina helped to build space science instruments and led scientific fieldwork in some of the most remote environments on the planet. Her hobbies include surfing, rock climbing,
and
community
CDR,
service, yoga, and photography.
Go ahead, NCD.
There's a couple of suppressed overvolt messages. We're going to go ahead and clear those off your screen.
We see them and we copy.
All right.
NASA test director.
We're still working here, trying to get through everything. So.
Bienvenidos a esta transmisión especial a través de Cacho Periodista en YouTube sobre un día histórico, un día en el que la humanidad volverá a vivir un evento que solo hemos presenciado una sola ocasión hace más de 50 años, cuando el hombre llegó a la Luna. Estas imágenes que vemos son oficiales de la NASA, la Agencia Espacial de los Estados Unidos, el Centro Espacial Kennedy, que este 1 de abril de 2026, en cosa de 26 minutos y casi 30 segundos, llevará a cabo el lanzamiento del Artemis II, que es la primera misión tripulada de este programa Artemis, que tiene como misión llevar a 4 astronautas hasta la órbita lunar y traerlos de regreso a la Tierra. Son momentos sumamente emocionantes donde todo está dispuesto ya en el Centro Espacial Kennedy y el planeta entero está pendiente de estas imágenes y de este momento que forma parte de un paso fundamental de la carrera espacial que desde hace más de medio siglo se sostiene entre distintas potencias. Por un lado los Estados Unidos, pero también los rusos, pero también los franceses y ahora los chinos. Y algunas especulaciones de orden geopolítico hablan de que Estados Unidos quiere llegar a la Luna y establecer una base lunar permanente ahí antes de que lo hagan los chinos. Pero bueno, esas son especulaciones geopolíticas, geoespaciales, en las que estamos inmersos como planeta y como humanidad. Pero lo fascinante de las imágenes que estamos viendo es todo lo que hay detrás de esta hazaña de la ciencia, de esta hazaña del hombre, del ser humano, que con su conocimiento ha podido alcanzar órbitas que jamás imaginamos. Son los momentos previos cuando ya desde hace varios minutos los 4 tripulantes de esta misión se encuentran listos en la cápsula Orión, que es la punta de esta nave. Hay que recordar que la nave está compuesta por distintos módulos. El módulo que se llama SLS o el bloque 1, que es lo primero que se desprende del lanzamiento, cuando estamos viendo imágenes de archivo de la propia Agencia Espacial de los Estados Unidos acerca de estos programas, porque está comenzando su transmisión oficial justo media hora antes del cálculo que se tiene de llevar a cabo este lanzamiento. Les decía que la nave, este cohete, está formado por varias partes. El vehículo SLS bloque 1, que propulsa a la cápsula Orión. Esta cápsula Orión, que es finalmente donde van los tripulantes y donde llegarán a la órbita lunar, si es que todo sale previsto como se tiene pensado hasta este momento. Porque para poder llevar a cabo con éxito una misión de estas, hay muchos factores en juego, muchos factores que influyen, no solamente los científicos, sino hasta los meteorológicos. El clima, los vientos, la lluvia, incluso la temperatura son elementos importantes que hay que tomar en cuenta cada vez que se lleva a cabo un lanzamiento espacial. Muchos lanzamientos se han visto frustrados y han tenido que abortarse por diversos elementos, incluyendo el de la meteorología. El objetivo de esta misión es validar los sistemas humanos y operaciones de vuelo profundo. Hay una ventana de oportunidad de lanzamiento, le llaman, que es el tiempo en el que las condiciones meteorológicas son las propicias para poder llevar a cabo el lanzamiento y que la nave salga con éxito de la atmósfera terrestre y arribe hasta la órbita lunar. Son 4 tripulantes, son 4 mujeres y hombres que van a llevar a cabo esta misión, todos comandados por Reed Weissman, que es un veterano piloto, ex jefe de la Oficina de Astronautas de la NASA, que tiene una amplia experiencia en misiones de la Estación Espacial. Junto con él va el piloto Victor Glover, quien es aviador naval y piloto de pruebas, quien ya ha participado en otras misiones en el pasado, una misión a la Estación Espacial Internacional en la misión Crew One. También está el especialista de misión o la especialista de misión Cristina Cacho. Ella es ingeniera y astronauta que ostenta el récord de la más larga permanencia en la Estación Espacial Internacional. Ella es una experta en operaciones extravehiculares. Es la única mujer en esta tripulación, que se compone también, como último de estos elementos, del especialista de misión Jeremy Hansen, que él es canadiense. Hay que recordar que por primera vez un canadiense irá a la Luna. Es coronel de la Real Fuerza Aérea Canadiense y, como les digo, será el primer canadiense que vuele alrededor de la Luna en la órbita lunar. Todo está dispuesto, ya han sido llevados los tripulantes hasta la cápsula Orión, han hecho todas las revisiones previas antes del lanzamiento, cuando vemos que faltan 20 minutos con 40 segundos para ser precisos, y a esta altura ya se ha puesto en marcha todo el protocolo que implica este lanzamiento 30 minutos antes, luego de haberse llevado los chequeos necesarios para poder realizar el lanzamiento con toda seguridad. Se ha dado la señal de go, es decir, vamos con el lanzamiento, que es una de las señales más esperadas por las decenas de científicos, técnicos, ingenieros, astronautas, pilotos, físicos, matemáticos y todos los científicos que participan de una misión de esta índole. Y esperando, por supuesto, el conteo final de los 10 minutos, que es una secuencia automática, 10 minutos previos al momento del lanzamiento, del despegue, donde se conforman los sistemas, donde se arman los sistemas y se checa la presurización dentro de la cápsula Orión y dentro de todos los compartimentos y cápsulas donde se llevará a cabo la vida humana dentro de esta cápsula, de esta misión. A los 2 minutos antes de llevarse a cabo el lanzamiento, se lleva a cabo un recuento protocolario, reglamentario, de todos los sistemas verificados de lanzamiento. Y 1 minuto antes se emite la señal, que es la señal que estamos esperando, el final go o finalmente no go, que confirma que la misión se llevará a cabo o se abortará. Así que estamos en espera de conocer todas estas señales que nos darán una idea de cómo van las cosas en torno de esta misión del Artemis II. Inmediatamente al despegue veremos, por supuesto, la ignición de los motores y el encendido de los propulsores sólidos de esta nave que se eleva desde la rampa. Y entonces comienza la fase de Mach 1, la Mach 1, y luego eso da pie al primer recorrido de este cohete hasta atravesar la atmósfera terrestre, y comienza el Mach Q, que es el punto de máxima presión aerodinámica, y luego viene la separación, esta separación que es siempre espectacular, siempre emocionante y siempre también pues pone los pelos de punta a todo mundo, sobre todo cuando no conocemos exactamente cuáles son los módulos de este cohete, de esta nave espacial. De cualquier manera, en este momento, cuando faltan 17 minutos con 30 segundos para el momento del lanzamiento, está la NASA ya lista. Hay que decir que alrededor del Centro Espacial Kennedy, en la Florida, se han congregado cientos de personas acompañadas de sus hijos, y han llevado pues sillas para poder presenciar el momento del lanzamiento del Artemis II. En instantes veremos algunos otros datos de esta misión que, como les digo, se lleva a cabo este 1 de abril de 2026. La hora exacta del lanzamiento será a las 18 horas con 24 minutos tiempo del este de los Estados Unidos, que son las 4 de la tarde con 24 minutos tiempo del centro de México. En el Centro Espacial Kennedy es una misión que se espera dure 10 días y que, como les decía, tiene como misión ver pues, cómo se lleva a cabo la vida en esta misión espacial y sobre todo marcar un punto de ventaja de la carrera espacial, del sistema espacial de los Estados Unidos, de la NASA, sobre el resto de los otros países, de las otras potencias que están llevando a cabo también sus propias misiones y que están sin duda también pendientes de lo que ocurra en este lanzamiento del Artemis II. Validar los sistemas humanos es parte de lo que se pretende llevar a cabo en esta misión y también llevar a cabo operaciones de vuelo profundo. Desde 1969, desde aquel mítico momento en que el hombre puso un pie en la superficie lunar, no se llevaba a cabo una misión de esta envergadura, de esta naturaleza. Y eso ha provocado una serie de mitos, una serie de versiones en el sentido de que aquella misión de 1969 que comandó Neil Armstrong y que dicen algunos, hay versiones que aseguran que todo fue un montaje, que todo fue un engaño. Y más de medio siglo después hay quien sigue asegurando aquella versión, aquella teoría de que esa misión de Neil Armstrong fue pues un montaje, que fue una farsa, que se montó un set de cine o de televisión para hacerle creer al mundo entero que el hombre había llegado a la Luna, pero sobre todo para hacerle pensar a las grandes potencias que los Estados Unidos habían llegado a la superficie lunar. Y no ha importado todo lo que ha ocurrido 5 décadas después, no ha importado el estudio o los estudios científicos de las diversas muestras que se tomaron de aquel momento en la superficie lunar y que han sido analizadas de distintas maneras aquí en la Tierra. Hay quien sigue pensando que se trató de un montaje. Estamos transmitiendo, yo soy Alejandro Cacho y estamos transmitiendo en el canal de YouTube de Cacho Periodista, a donde pues agradezco y por supuesto valoro mucho la presencia de toda la gente que nos hace favor de acompañarnos en esta transmisión histórica, en esta transmisión en vivo, en donde es muy importante que podamos compartirlo con los niños, por ejemplo, con los más pequeños que siempre van a mantener en su memoria un momento como este. Gracias a Magali PV15, quien nos escribe a través del chat en YouTube. Dice, 60 años después, la humanidad vuelve a mirar a las estrellas con esperanza. Buen viaje a la tripulación. Santi Rodríguez, una misión histórica, dice, la próxima parada, la Luna. Y se dice muy, muy sencillo, la próxima parada, la Luna. Pero ¿saben todo lo que significa esa frase así de sencilla? Pensar en todo lo que hay detrás del esfuerzo humano, del esfuerzo de la ciencia, del esfuerzo de miles de personas que se encuentran detrás de una misión que es tan delicada y que es de tan altísima precisión y tecnología que en cualquier momento, cualquier factor que varíe de último momento podría provocar que no se lleve a cabo. Cristina Koch representa a todas las mujeres que no conocen límites. El futuro es femenino y espacial, dice Magali. Gracias, Magali, por estar aquí en esta transmisión de Cacho Periodista. Qué maravilla, una de las cosas más valiosas del Artemis II es que se va a probar algo que casi nunca se ve en titulares y que es cómo proteger a los humanos fuera del escudo magnético de la Tierra. También en Roma 27 hemos perdido la capacidad de asombro ante estos eventos. No deja de ser una maravilla lo que el hombre logra con el desarrollo tecnológico. Cierto, es impresionante. Todavía solamente la imaginación, solamente los límites de la imaginación pueden llevarnos hasta aquellos lugares, la órbita lunar, porque la mayoría de nosotros pues simplemente no podemos estar ahí, porque no somos, evidentemente, no somos astronautas. Se ha pasado ya el límite de los 10 minutos. 10 minutos en este momento para que se empiece a dar el conteo regresivo y que se lleve a cabo el despegue del Artemis II. Ahí vemos en la pantalla de la NASA, de la Agencia Espacial de los Estados Unidos, esta señal de los menos 10 minutos. Y contando en cuanto ese reloj empiece la cuenta regresiva, lo estaremos viendo la humanidad entera y estaremos, por supuesto, presenciando un momento histórico. Un momento que ha también, por supuesto, reunido a cientos de periodistas, cientos de personas, de representantes de medios de comunicación del planeta entero, pero también congrega a mucha gente, a muchos científicos que aunque no formen parte de la NASA, son gente interesada en la ciencia, gente muy pendiente de lo que significan estas misiones y gente que va a sacar, por supuesto, mucha información valiosa para complementar pues algunos estudios, para complementar algunos experimentos en tierra como producto de lo que se logre obtener de información y de muestras en esta misión del Artemis II. Vemos como la bandera de los Estados Unidos y de esta misión, el Artemis II, que es esa bandera negra que ondea por debajo de la bandera de la barra y las estrellas. Vemos el viento que se siente en este momento en la península de la Florida, que es un viento que corre fuerte, pero pues vemos ya, por supuesto, el momento en que los ingenieros, los técnicos, los físicos están atentos, revisando los últimos detalles para poder llevar a cabo el conteo regresivo y poder dar el on-go, que es la señal que se da apenas unos segundos, unos minutos antes del momento del propio despegue y de aquel emocionantísimo y muy emblemático conteo de los 10 segundos previos al momento en que los motores de la aeronave se encienden y comienza, por supuesto, su despegue de la superficie terrestre. Es verdaderamente emocionante ver y estar en espera de que esto ocurra. En este momento son las 18 horas, discúlpenme, 18 horas con 17 minutos, tiempo del este de los Estados Unidos. Son las 4 de la tarde con 17 minutos en México. Estamos a escasos 7 minutos, 6 minutos de que se lleve a cabo el despegue, si es que no ocurren pues algunos inconvenientes, si es que no ocurre algo que pueda obligar a los científicos a abortar la misión, porque simple y sencillamente hay que tomar en cuenta que no importa los miles de millones de dólares que se inviertan en estos ejercicios, no importa las miles de horas de trabajo de miles de personas que participan en una misión como esta, detrás de un lanzamiento. No importa los años que hayan transcurrido, sin que se llegue a la Luna por parte del ser humano. Lo que se privilegia es la vida, por supuesto, de los 4 tripulantes que se encuentran ya a bordo, listos, dispuestos para participar en esta misión histórica. Repito, a cargo de la misión está el comandante Reed Weissman, que es el ex jefe de la oficina de astronautas de la NASA, con una larga experiencia en misiones en la Estación Espacial Internacional, un veterano piloto de la Fuerza Aérea de los Estados Unidos. También se encuentra el piloto Victor Glover, quien es un piloto aviador naval, piloto de pruebas y quien también ya ha estado antes en la Estación Espacial Internacional y que llegó a ella en la misión Crew One. También forma parte fundamental de esta misión la especialista, la ingeniera y astronauta Christina Koch, que es una especialista de esta misión. Su trabajo es fundamental y especialmente importante y delicado en esta misión del Artemis II, porque la ingeniera Christina Koch además tiene una larga experiencia y ostenta el récord de la permanencia más prolongada en la Estación Espacial Internacional. Ella es experta en operaciones extravehiculares, aquellas misiones, aquellos ejercicios que se llevan a cabo fuera de la cápsula de la NASA, ya sobre la superficie, en este caso de la Luna, para explorar el terreno, para conocerlo, para reconocerlo, para recolectar pruebas también que luego serán llevadas a la cápsula y llegarán a la Tierra. Y por último está el canadiense coronel de la Real Fuerza Aérea de Canadá, el especialista Jeremy Hansen, que se convertirá en cosa de 3 minutos, si todo sigue como está planeado, se convertirá en el primer canadiense en volar alrededor de la Luna. Los vimos hace unos instantes en las escenas, ya dispuestos, cada uno en su sitio dentro de esta cápsula que se llama el Orión y que, pues, yo no puedo imaginar, no sé si ustedes puedan imaginar lo que cada una de estas personas tiene en este momento en sus mentes. Todas las horas de trabajo, de estudio, de esfuerzo, de preparación física que también se requiere para llevar a cabo una misión como esta y que están a punto de culminarla. Gracias por sus comentarios a través de Cacho Periodista en YouTube. Amara nos dice, wow, qué aventura tan emocionante, bendiciones para todos, qué emoción, dice Andrea Michelle, qué increíble, también nos dice Ale. José Hernández, que es maravilloso cómo podemos unirnos a algo tan histórico al mandar nuestros hombres a la órbita lunar. Yo envié mi nombre para que fuese llevado a la Luna, estoy emocionada, dice Daily. Buena suerte, dice Mika. También hay aquí quien piensa que estas misiones simple y sencillamente pues son un montaje. Bueno, está bien, se vale de todo, absolutamente. Y en este momento faltan 2 minutos. 2 minutos y unos segundos más para que se dé la orden de ignición de los motores del Artemis II y así poder llevar a cabo el inicio de esta misión. Solamente estamos esperando el conteo final cuando vemos ya este segundero con los 10 segundos dispuestos ahí para empezar ya a contar esa cuenta regresiva hasta el momento en que se inicia el encendido de los motores. Está detenida la cuenta regresiva en este momento. Nos estamos enterando a través de las comunicaciones que mantienen los propios ingenieros allá en la NASA. Está detenida la cuenta regresiva. Vamos a esperar a ver cuál es la decisión que se toma finalmente, pero cuando han faltado escasos 2 minutos para el momento del lanzamiento, que originalmente estaba establecido para las 6 de la tarde con 24 minutos y 30 segundos tiempo del este de los Estados Unidos, la cuenta regresiva se ha detenido. Están preguntando si hay algún tiempo estimado y la respuesta fue no en este momento. No hay un tiempo estimado para que se reinicie la cuenta regresiva en el Centro Espacial Kennedy de la Florida para que se lleve a cabo esta misión, el Artemis II. Y todo es expectación en este momento. El planeta entero, millones de personas están a la espera de saber qué ocurrirá con esta misión y si se logra llevar a cabo con éxito. El presidente de los Estados Unidos, Donald Trump, ha publicado a través de sus redes sociales que se encuentra atento desde la Casa Blanca, por supuesto, de lo que ocurra con esta misión, del trabajo de miles de personas que se encuentran detrás y, por supuesto, del trabajo y la suerte que corran el comandante Wright Weissman de la NASA. Estamos verificando nuestras preocupaciones, algunos detalles, es lo que se está escuchando en las comunicaciones y estamos en espera de que se lleve a cabo el lanzamiento o que se declare abortada la misión.
GLS copies. 3, 2, 1.
Parece que momentáneamente están reiniciando el conteo. 10 minutos y contando, se ha reiniciado la cuenta regresiva. Ahí podemos ver en el recuadro inferior izquierdo que se ha reiniciado la cuenta regresiva de los 10 minutos luego de que fue aplazada, luego de que fue suspendida. 9 minutos con 30 segundos en este preciso instante, el tiempo que tarda para que se lleve a cabo esta misión, para que se lleve a cabo el despegue del Artemis II. Les decía, comandado por Wright Weissman, acompañado por el piloto Victor Glover, por la ingeniera Cristina Koch, que además es una mujer que tiene el récord de la permanencia más larga en la Estación Espacial Internacional y que por primera vez llevará a un canadiense a la órbita lunar. Se trata de el coronel de la Real Fuerza Aérea Canadiense, Jeremy Hansen, que estará presente allá en la Luna si todo sigue como se está planeando, si todo sigue como se está viendo en el conteo regresivo de este enorme reloj que se ha dispuesto en las instalaciones del Centro Espacial Kennedy. 8 minutos. 8 minutos separan a estos astronautas de la misión que tienen prevista. Misiones delicadísimas, misiones en las que hay muchos factores que pueden provocar que se aborte, que no se lleve a cabo, a pesar de que se haya gastado miles de millones de dólares, a pesar del trabajo de muchas personas, ingenieros, matemáticos, astronautas, por supuesto, pilotos, físicos. A pesar de todo, lo más importante es salvaguardar la vida de los astronautas. Se está despegando ya, me parece, vemos algunos movimientos ahí de la plataforma, están haciendo ya labores de retraimiento de ese pasillo que fue por el que caminaron los astronautas para ingresar a la cápsula Orión, que es finalmente donde donde se encuentran en este momento y donde llevarán a cabo esta misión que durará 10 días. Les quiero recordar que a través de las redes sociales de Cacho Periodista, a través de mis redes sociales y a través del sitio web cachoperiodista.com pueden encontrar no solamente esta transmisión en vivo, sino todos los detalles de la misión Artemis con detalle, con seguimiento puntual durante los 10 días que durará esta misión en caso de que logre despegar el Artemis II en 6 minutos con 40 segundos. Toda la información en cachoperiodista.com y en todas mis redes sociales también, Cacho Periodista, en cualquier red social donde ustedes ingresen, la que les guste, la que tengan a la mano, ahí me pueden encontrar como Cacho Periodista y ahí podrán tener todos los detalles durante los 10 días que dura esta misión. Luego de que los motores se enciendan, cosa que ocurrirá en aproximadamente 6 minutos, y los propulsores auxiliares se activen, se va a llevar a cabo la separación umbilical, o sea, la desconexión de los cables de energía y las líneas de combustible, que es el último paso antes de que el cohete despegue. Cuando veíamos hace unos instantes las imágenes de este pasillo, de este túnel que utilizaron los astronautas para ingresar a la cápsula espacial Orión, veíamos algunas, ahí se ven en la parte blanca, que es la cápsula Orión, hasta arriba del lado izquierdo, hay unos ductos, unas mangueras naranjas, que son las que conectan a la cápsula con la plataforma espacial. Ahí las vemos con toda claridad. Y una vez que se enciendan los motores, se llevará a cabo esta separación umbilical, porque efectivamente esas ductos, esas mangueras, esos tubos, son pues precisamente eso, son como un cordón umbilical que le dan vida, que mantienen comunicación y que son parte de la membrana que mantiene conectados a los astronautas con el Centro Espacial Kennedy y con la Tierra. De otra forma estarían un tanto ciegos, pero una vez que se enciendan los motores, esas ductos, esas mangueras se despegarán y entonces estarán los astronautas iniciando su misión justo en ese momento. Es el último paso antes de que el cohete despegue, cosa que deberá ocurrir en aproximadamente 4 minutos con 15 segundos, si es que si no ocurre otra cosa. Síganos escribiendo a través del chat de YouTube en Cacho Periodista, es el canal de YouTube por donde estamos transmitiendo y por donde pueden también hacernos saber sus comentarios, sus puntos de vista, lo que les inspira un momento histórico como este en la Agencia Espacial de los Estados Unidos, en este lugar también histórico y legendario, la Estación Espacial Internacional en Kennedy, en la península de la Florida. ¿Por qué? No es casual que esté en la península de la Florida. Ahí en esta península hemos visto, por supuesto, condiciones, sobre todo climáticas, propicias para llevar a cabo este tipo de misiones. No es extraño que no lejos de ahí, en la zona de Brownsville, en la costa de Texas, también colindante con el Golfo de México, se haya instalado el SpaceX, que es esta plataforma de despegue de misiones espaciales de Elon Musk. Así que por eso les decía, no es casual que se encuentre en la Florida y no es casual que ahí mismo se haya instalado Elon Musk con su SpaceX. Seguimos en la cuenta regresiva, son 2 minutos con 40 segundos y todo sigue contando. Todo en este momento está previsto para que se lleve a cabo el despegue del Artemis II y de no tener falla, ahí estamos viendo los motores, ahí estamos viendo las cámaras que en unos instantes más veremos arder con esas enormes llamas y esa combustión impresionante que se produce una vez que se inicia el despegue de una nave espacial. Estamos exactamente a 2 minutos de que eso ocurra. Estamos a 2 minutos de que vuelvan a hacer historia a través de la NASA, de esta misión, el Artemis II. El comandante Reed Weissman de los Estados Unidos, el piloto Victor Glover, también de los Estados Unidos, la astronauta e ingeniera Christina Koch, norteamericana también, y el primer canadiense que estará en la órbita lunar, el comandante Jeremy Hansen, coronel de la Real Fuerza Aérea Canadiense. Minuto con 20 segundos para que esta misión se lleve a cabo, para que comience la cuenta regresiva de 10 segundos, cosa que deberá ocurrir exactamente en un minuto. Un minuto con 10, para que se enciendan los motores y comience el Artemis II. Los ingenieros en la NASA, en esta estación espacial, mantienen toda su atención, no solamente toda su atención, sino están checando todos y cada uno de los detalles de una misión como esta para poderla llevar a cabo con toda seguridad y conforme está previsto. 40 segundos en este momento, 40 segundos para que el hombre vuelva a hacer historia y se inicie la misión espacial que lo llevará por segunda ocasión en la historia a la órbita lunar. Lo que estamos por ver de llevarse a cabo con éxito el despegue del Artemis II, lo que estamos por ver es historia pura, es un momento que no hemos vivido, que la humanidad no ha vuelto a ver en 50 años. Se están encendiendo ya los motores y estamos escuchando ya la cuenta regresiva, y en este momento se lleva a cabo ya el despegue del Artemis II. Es el momento emocionante, se ha llevado a cabo en este momento el despegue, se han ya llevado a cabo la separación umbilical de estos ductos que les comentaba, y en cualquier momento se llevará a cabo en la siguiente fase, que es el desprendimiento de uno de los módulos de esta aeronave, de este cohete espacial, para continuar su ruta hacia fuera de la atmósfera terrestre, para fuera de la órbita terrestre, y poder aproximarse a nuestro único satélite, a la Luna terrestre, que es la misión de esta Artemis II. En este momento se reporta que todo va conforme a lo previsto. En este momento se lleva a cabo ya el desprendimiento de uno de los módulos de esta nave. Lo que ha ocurrido es que no solamente se desprende una parte de esta nave que ha cumplido ya con su misión, sino que además el desprendimiento permite que la nave sea más ligera y que por eso facilite todavía más el trayecto hacia el espacio, hacia fuera de la órbita terrestre. Estamos ya después de esta etapa MECO. Se apaga el motor principal y eso marca el momento en que se habrá de separar la parte central del cohete, cosa que está ocurriendo en este momento. La parte central de esta nave se está separando y estas partes van a caer en aguas del océano Atlántico, mientras que la cápsula Orión continuará su ruta hacia la órbita lunar. En algún momento estaremos escuchando y viendo tal vez algunas señales de que se ha alcanzado el punto de gravedad cero. En este momento ya el Artemis II ha atravesado la parte más densa de la atmósfera terrestre y también es uno de los momentos más críticos porque esa parte más densa de la atmósfera terrestre genera una fricción con altísimas temperaturas que puede provocar daños y tener consecuencias fatales, cosa que no ha ocurrido por fortuna en esta ocasión. Ahí vemos la estela que ha dejado la ignición de los motores y vemos ya cómo la cápsula Orión empieza ya a entrar al espacio y las tres segmentos anteriores de la nave se han desprendido y estamos por ver el momento en que se atraviesa ya el punto de la gravedad cero por parte de la cápsula Orión y sus 4 tripulantes. En este momento, la cápsula Orión, esta cápsula en donde están los 4 astronautas, esta cápsula donde llevarán a cabo todos sus experimentos y donde vivirán durante los próximos 10 días, se encuentra ya en el espacio. Todavía los astronautas están experimentando varios Gs de presión en sus cuerpos, cosa que los mantiene pegados al asiento que cada uno de ellos ocupa, pero están preparados psicológica y físicamente para llevar a cabo esa misión. Saben lo que está ocurriendo minuto a minuto, segundo a segundo, y saben lo que significa cada una de las etapas de este trayecto que los tiene ya en el espacio, que los tiene ya en la órbita, fuera de la órbita terrestre y van en su camino hacia la Luna. Ya en este momento, cuando la cápsula Orión se encuentra en el espacio, está experimentando la gravedad cero. Tiene 4 motores la cápsula, tiene 4 motores y ya a esta altura donde ha alcanzado en este momento lo que es propiamente el espacio, ha apagado uno de ellos porque no es necesario que tenga los 4. Ha atravesado la parte más densa de la atmósfera y una vez concluido esto, su viaje se hace, digamos, más ligero. Ya no necesita tanta potencia para continuar su ruta hacia la Luna y entonces es que se apaga uno de los 4 motores, porque también hay que pensar en el ahorro de combustible y el ahorro de energía, porque se va a necesitar después en las misiones que lleven a cabo durante los próximos 10 días y en el próximo, también en el próximo día 10 de la misión, cuando emprendan su viaje de regreso a la Tierra. La velocidad es impresionante de esta nave. Se calcula, o se nos dicen los ingenieros de la NASA que son 28,000 kilómetros por hora. Son 8 minutos que están a punto de alcanzarse ya. No, ya se han alcanzado los 8 minutos que toma desde el momento del despegue hasta el momento en que se encuentra ya en el espacio. Tomará cosa de 40 minutos más el que comience una etapa distinta de este viaje del Artemis II y que consiste en que se lleva a cabo la propulsión criogénico, o sea que la parte superior de la nave, la parte superior del cohete, tenga el impulso final y que lo lleve hasta aproximadamente 160 kilómetros sobre la atmósfera terrestre. Estas imágenes que transmite la NASA son justo del momento que les comentaba, que es el momento en que la etapa central cumplió su función y ocurre lo que técnicamente le llaman MECO, que es el apagado del motor principal. Y en este momento se puede decir que los tripulantes del Artemis II, a cargo del comandante Reed Weissman, del piloto Victor Glover, de la astronauta Christina Koch y del coronel Jeremy Hansen, se encuentran ya oficialmente en el espacio justo en este instante, cuando han pasado 10 minutos del momento del despegue allá en el Centro Espacial Kennedy. Y así inician 10 días. 10 días de una misión que será sumamente importante. Y por supuesto, gracias a la gente que nos está siguiendo a través de YouTube, gracias a la gente que nos sigue a través del canal Cacho Periodista. Wendy dice, grandioso, mucho mejor ver que sea un cohete espacial y no un misil para matar gente, dice Edgar Fernando, gracias. Laura Montt, padrísimo, qué emoción, gracias Laura. Y así muchos otros comentarios de el momento en que el Artemis II ha despegado y está ya en ruta hacia la órbita lunar. Finalmente, ya los astronautas están en el espacio y durante los próximos días, algunas de las tareas que llevarán a cabo será probar sistemas clave para la supervivencia de los astronautas en el espacio. Desde algo tan simple para nosotros que es el agua, van a probar sistemas clave como el dispensador del agua, cómo abastecerse de agua y tener agua para beber, no solamente para beber, sino también para sus necesidades físicas, para el inodoro y algunas otras allá en el espacio. También otros sistemas como el que elimina el dióxido de carbono del aire será otra de las pruebas que llevarán a cabo los astronautas del Artemis II. También en un par de horas más, tal vez 3 horas más, los tripulantes llevarán a cabo pruebas de cómo se controla, cómo se lleva a cabo la operación manual de la cápsula Orión, que hay que recordar que pues mantiene comunicación permanente con la NASA en tierra y que muchos de los sistemas de la cápsula Orión se controlan desde el Centro Espacial Kennedy, pero también ante cualquier eventualidad hay que tener la posibilidad de que se pueda controlar esta cápsula manualmente y que los 4 tripulantes tienen asignadas tareas distintas que han practicado y memorizado durante meses. Esa será una de las fases también que llevarán a cabo los astronautas, la tripulación del Orión, en cosa de 3 horas más. También, y esto tal vez sea algo de lo más difícil, y suena tan simple, que es la gestión del sueño, o sea, dormir. Y digo que tal vez sea algo de lo más difícil porque seguramente muchos de nosotros no podríamos dormir si nos encontráramos en una misión como esta en el espacio, porque la mente y la imaginación estarían a 1000 revoluciones y no nos dejarían conciliar el sueño. Se tiene contemplado que los tripulantes del Orión duerman 4 horas en turnos de 2 tripulantes. Es decir, 2 de ellos dormirán 4 horas, a las 4 horas despertarán, tocará dormir a los otros 2 tripulantes otras 4 horas y luego así se irán alternando. Pero algo tan sencillo como dormir, supongo que será sumamente complicado, sobre todo por la emoción de los primeros minutos y las primeras horas comenzada esta misión. Pero eso apenas será el principio, porque una vez que transcurra el primer día, las primeras 24 horas, el comandante Reed Weissman y Víctor Glover llevarán a cabo otra de los momentos clave, comprobar el dispositivo de ejercicio flotante de inercia y luego harán sus primeros entrenamientos de la misión, porque esta es otra de las tareas, de las exigencias diarias para garantizar el bienestar de la tripulación. En el Artemis II. Cuando en la Tierra, por supuesto, ya la misión ha sido distinta. En la Tierra, en este momento se llevan a cabo los monitoreos de todos y cada uno de los sistemas del Artemis II para que continúe durante las próximas horas su trayectoria hacia la Luna y que podamos ver ya el alunizaje y que podamos conocer todas las misiones que llevarán a cabo estos 4 tripulantes durante los próximos 10 días. Y que por supuesto le estaremos llevando a cabo una cobertura permanente y detallada a través del portal cachoperiodista.com y de todas las redes sociales, todas mis redes sociales, Cacho Periodista, en todos lados. Estaremos dando un seguimiento puntual y permanente a esta misión del Artemis II, que ha comenzado con éxito este día. Anótenlo ustedes, anótenlo, 1 de abril de 2026, que ha quedado inscrito en la historia de la carrera espacial como la segunda ocasión en 50 años que el hombre va a la Luna. Así que los invito a que nos sigan a través de cachoperiodista.com y a través de mis redes sociales, Cacho Periodista, en todas las redes sociales y del canal de YouTube a Cacho Periodista para dar seguimiento a esta misión espacial. Por lo pronto, esta transmisión llega a su fin. Yo, Alejandro Cacho, les agradezco mucho que nos hayan acompañado y les invito a que nos sigan aquí a través de YouTube y que nos sigan a través de redes sociales. Gracias a Chávez Pesqueira, dice una experiencia increíble poder ser testigos de este momento. A Elisa Fernández, gracias por la transmisión, gracias Elisa, gracias por la transmisión, dice Laura Montt, también gracias. Wendy dice suertudos, qué padre experiencia estar en este viaje, la gente súper emocionada. Go Orión, dice Magali, histórico, padrísimo, qué emoción. Gracias a todos, porque sin ustedes esto no sería posible. Gracias a todos y por supuesto nos serviría muchísimo que nos dieran like y que compartieran esta transmisión a través de YouTube. Sus likes son muy importantes y que se suscriban al canal a Cacho Periodista. También se pueden suscribir ahí y estaremos en contacto permanente. Gracias a todos y muy buen día.